So many Asian-led TV shows are getting canceled nowadays. What's going on?
Yeah, we're talking about the cancellation of ABC's The Company You Keep and CW's Kung Fu. So a lot of people, Andrew, on Asian internet circles are wondering right now, man, is the Asian boom seeing a slight retraction?
Ooh, we're going to talk about it, guys. This is some TV talk. So if you're excited about this video, please hit that like button. Check out other episodes of the Hot Pot Boys because we're talking about it. So Kung Fu, it lasted 3 seasons on CW, got canceled. Some people are feeling like, oh, all these other shows like Bling Empire got canceled. House of Ho, I think, might get canceled. The Strays, which was a Kim's Convenience spinoff, got canceled.
A lot of Asian pilots with all Asian casts also did not get picked up, even though the pilots were made. I believe there was a show about ABGs in the 626. A pilot also got made. It did not get the green light to go into production.
Right.
So basically, a lot of people are wondering, man, we had this great 5, 6, 7, 8 years since Crazy Rich Asians. We're seeing this boom, but are we seeing a peak and a little bit of a drop off?
It doesn't mean that there's not more Asian shows out there, but yeah. Anyways, let's talk about why shows get canceled. I mean, essentially, the bottom line is that if the shows are just not making money and advertisers don't want to buy commercial space on these shows, then basically they'll just nix it.
And they do cost a lot of money to take up a time slot. Obviously, we're speaking about traditional TV right now, not streaming like Netflix. That is a different business model due to it being digital.
But a lot of shows do get made and canceled on Netflix as well. So Netflix has a lot of good Asian representation, as we know, but that also means the more Asian representation means the more Asian cancellation.
Yeah, I think also these shows got greenlit at a time where people were saying, you know what, we got to give the Asians a chance. That was the last group in America who had no shows made for it. You know, this is their consumer power, the purchasing power is surging. You know, they got all this discretionary income. We got to give them a chance. So obviously shows go, and some of them, you know, they get a go for a while, and some of them they sputter out very quickly, right?
I mean, you'd even think a show like The Company You Keep, originally that role of Catherine Kim that Catherine Kim played, which is originally, I believe, written for a non-ethnic woman, but then they put in an Asian woman at the end. But maybe that didn't like make the show interesting enough because you didn't really tie in any of her culture because she's just replacing a white person.
I think it's different. The Company You Keep was not intended for an Asian audience to make up a significant portion of the demographic base. However, Kung Fu, for sure it was.
Yeah. Shout out to Olivia Liang. She was actually in a Fung Bros food video 7 years ago. So she is a Fung Bros alum. But yeah, I mean, she went on to have 3 seasons of her own show. So shout out to her, man.
All right, let's get into the comments section, guys. Somebody said, oh, I like this show, Company You Keep. I'm sick of all the Law and Order, CSI spinoffs, and I'm old. So, you know, but the thing is, I will admit, I don't want to pay for Netflix. That's not how I consume content.
That's really interesting that a lot of older people that don't subscribe to Netflix kind of want Netflix-style shows. But if it's on network TV, you have limits to what you can do. Obviously, it can't be R-rated, and you got to, you know, tone down the love scenes. You got to tone down the language and everything. But I do think it's interesting that CSI shows, like cop shows and firefighter shows, they always do really well on TV because it like depicts real life and like blue collar workers. Like, oh man, I want to watch police officers and firefighters, and then that's the show.
Yeah, to be honest, I think a lot of people that are watching network television in 2023, they still are from the Dragnet MASH days. Literally popular shows from the 60s and 70s. To be honest, I'm keeping it real.
MASH.
I mean, Company You Keep actually had good ratings, but a lot of people were wondering, was this audience not broad enough? Because like you said, it was based off a South Korean show, but originally was written for 2 white characters. John M. Chu, one of the producers, he fought to have a Korean woman play the woman, but a lot of people now were speculating, did that Asian casting, even though it's great for diversity, also potentially hold the show back because people couldn't relate to a female Korean CIA character?
I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, I think that anytime you have a different looking person in a show role, of course, as we know, it can be a benefit, a negative, or a neutral. I think you'd like to think it's almost a neutral because that would mean everybody's getting accepted at the same level. But we all know for certain people in the individual watching, that's not true.
Yeah, I mean, I would say very, very conventionally attractive. So maybe the men followers liked it, but maybe, who knows? Maybe some female watchers are jealous, or who knows?
It's also possible that the writer's strike had something to do with it, that maybe her acting or Milo's acting, who was actually from Heroes. I used to watch him, but I guess, I don't know. And it might have been a costly show too.
Yeah. I actually more blame it on the fact that network television is watered down and neutered. Actually more, I think it could have worked on streaming, to be honest.
Interesting.
Somebody said Hollywood will cancel any show that has an Asian as a main lead that isn't some sort of silly comedy. Asians in Asia don't like it because it's just Asian faces acting white. Asian Americans don't really support anything unless it's a huge blockbuster with immigrant family themes that make them cry. And white, black, and Latino people have other options of stuff they relate more to watch. So I guess Asians will never really make it big in media. We could just get our STEM jobs and corporate jobs and just live good lives in the shadows. This was a real comment, but guys, I did not make this up.
No, I don't fully agree, man. I think that all this expanding and contracting, it happens all the time, guys. So I think the bubble from 5 years ago is much bigger, of course, as you can see, but did it expand a lot and then come back a little bit so some shows get nixed? Yes, I think that's what happened.
Somebody said all these diverse shows literally depend on liberal white women. And this liberal white lady was like, I really like the show. Obviously, liberal white women, it's crazy to break down demographics like this, but this is how they do it at the TV stations, to be honest, if you really want to talk to on a breakdown level. And they made CRA happen because they made the book happen. The book gets popular IP turns into movies. So you know what I mean? That's a very important voting block.
You know, I was thinking, do you think that space and that race for the liberal, open-minded eyeballs is just getting really competitive? Because there's a lot of content made for them.
Oh, you mean for the liberal white female eye?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they all think the same, of course, but, you know, like Bethany, a lot of people want Bethany's eyeballs.
You're talking about a lot of English teachers out there, right? Somebody said, I'm so sick of this. This is from an Asian guy. I didn't like how the story was WMAF to begin with, and we just need our own channels back like the AZN channel. I can't believe that failed. We rely on Asia so much to be strong. If we were the only Asians left on Earth, you guys have no idea. We'd basically be like Native Americans headed for extinction, and then all the women marrying out like Pocahontas. We are so weak, and we rely on all the money and influence from Asia. Asian Americans can't get their act together.
Woo! What a comment.
Yeah, yo, when I read this one,
he went off. Yeah, I mean, listen, as far as the AZN network, we got YouTube. Fung Bros is an AZN network. I don't know. Come on, man.
I will say this, that if we didn't have Asia media from Asia, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I would agree with how he said it, but like, you can't fully say it would be wrong.
Anyways, guys, let's move on to the show Kung Fu. Olivia Liang, 3 seasons, got canceled before the 4th season.
Yeah, shout out to Olivia Liang. She was in our Green Zone video from 626. Somebody said, this show was way too stereotypical. Basically, the Chinese people acted exactly how a Westerner would imagine. Strict parents, filial piety, dutiful Confucian upbringing, lots of kung fu and mysticism. These tropes do exist and people like them, but come on, can we at least get some 30% unique traits to make this more interesting to a viewer?
Yeah, so I was thinking that, you know, a network like CW, like it's almost like they were cooking Chinese American food, like a Chinese express spot, but for maybe like white Americans. You know what I mean? Like that, there's always a place for that type of food in America, like the peanut butter dumplings in Tennessee or cheeseburger shumai or something like that. You know, like people still want that type of food. Now, is that market slowly over time decreasing for that type of food or that type of content? I don't know, maybe.
Are you talking about how Kung Fu, like, it almost has a lot of themes from, like, Chinese shows from the 1960s or 70s, or even Little Trouble in Chinatown or whatever, that Kurt Russell movie?
Yeah, but I will be honest that a lot of shows like American Born Chinese, Shang-Chi, and even other things, they have similar themes, but the execution and how they're presented is very different.
Yeah, I mean, even American Born Chinese has this teleportation device between ancient mystical China and the real modern world, and a lot of shows play with it. But clearly, like you said, it must work to an extent because maybe people don't feel like without it, it's interesting or dynamic enough. Andrew, interestingly enough, this series Kung Fu that just got canceled was actually based off the same David Carradine show from 1972 that was originally supposed to be Bruce Lee. Then Brandon Lee had a pilot for a Kung Fu Next Generation in 1992. It did not get picked up. Interestingly enough, sort of tying back into our original discussion about Asian pilots not getting picked up. But a lot of people are saying anything related to 1950s, 60s, and stereotypes is played out.
I think for a lot of people who keep up with Asian content, it is played out. But what I'm saying is I don't think it's played out for a certain segment of the population. Now, I'm not saying that that's where we should go.
You're saying the people who like some cashew chicken, we can't have cashew chicken at shows. We all got to be eating the most authentic dim sum.
Do people eat almond chicken still?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there might be a Sichuan hot pot spot down the street, but I'm still getting my almond chicken.
Right. You're saying people want the poo-poo platter of TV shows to cater to their taste and their life experiences.
Yeah, but I do think that media, storytellers, artistic people, they have a obligation to keep pushing forward. So I think that's where we're moving. Okay. And I don't want to dump on Kung Fu as a show, but yes, I think a lot of people agree that like the themes of that show looked like they were on the edge of extinction.
Yeah, more beef. I think stuff like beef is really popping nowadays. Andrew, let's get into our takeaways. Does it all come down to it being very difficult for Western audiences to relate to Asian faces? Or do you think that's not the case for either of these shows?
I think when you cast an Asian person, a clearly Asian person at the forefront of a show that is not necessarily meant for an Asian audience, you do have to understand that does color people sometimes. Of course, a lot of people still cannot look past race. So I don't think it's the main driver. I think if shows are really good, they have a shot regardless. But yes, of course, man, like, you see someone who you don't really meet in your real life on a show and you don't fully relate to them.
What do you think about the pattern where all the new shows that are actually sticking around, getting 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons, have an established star from a different world or a pre-established iconic type of figure in the show?
You mean like if you want your movie or show to do well, you got to put Michelle Yeoh in it?
Yeah, or something like that,
Yeah, maybe not a star like Michelle Yeoh.
You need a top. It's almost like winning an NBA championship. If you don't have a top 10 player, you're not winning a chip.
Yeah. I mean, I think that as more Asians become famous from other things, whether that's martial arts or that's comedy or that's the web, like more and more established people are going to get their own shows. And I think that sometimes when you're making a show, basing it off of that original IP that person's bringing, maybe it's their life, it's their memoirs, like Fresh Off the Boat did with Eddie Huang's memoirs, then that usually makes for a better show.
Yeah, for sure. Like we said, guys, I think it comes down to target market pool. How big is the target market potentially for a show? Of course, the execution of the show, it depends on the creative team, how they come together with the actors and execute it scene by scene, line by line. I think there's intangibles. Is it nostalgic? Is it pre-existing IP? Are actors blowing up in auxiliary arenas so they can bring marketing benefits? Asian-led shows, women-led shows, there are certain movements of downstream culture that are popping more or less at different moments in time, right? How much does a show cost versus the profitability, ROI, and as well as branding for the network? How does it make the network look to have this show on its roster?
You know what I would like to see, David? A network or a platform that makes even lower budget shows. You know how cameras are really good? Sony cameras are really, even like consumer cameras can get really good. Yeah. What if there was an entire network, and I don't know, it might be a YouTube channel to be honest, that would make shows but made with those cameras so it's even lower cost, but they have a bunch of different shows.
Yeah. I think it could be a cool idea. And I remember 10 years ago or 6, 7 years ago, everybody on YouTube was almost trying to become filmmakers and do their own series. But I think ultimately the ROI projections, they weren't there. That's why most of YouTube has almost come back to talking head content.
Right. Well, I guess as it does come down to advertisers, if advertisers want to pay $1 million in front of your YouTube video, then that's awesome, but I highly doubt that they want to.
I would like a Southeast Asian TV show, man.
Let's do it.
Dude, I think that would be so dope, man. And I heard that there was an ABG show that the pilot didn't go.
Yeah.
This season.
Maybe the next one will. Everybody, let us know in the comments down below what you think. Were you excited for these Asian-led shows? Is it because they were Asian that they got canceled? Or is it just the expansion and contraction of this Asian boom? Because you know how things move.
Anyway, let us know in the comment section. Hop Boys breaking everything down. Till next time, we out. Peace.